All right, we've got a new segment for you today. It's called the Shocking Numbers segment. And the reason it's called the Shocking Numbers segment is because these numbers are super shocking. Wait till you hear these. A United Nations report found that female athletes around the globe have lost nearly 900 medals to men who identify as women who were competing in women's sports. This is from the New York Post. According to this report by the UN that was appropriately named Violence Against Women and Girls in Sports, by the 30th of March, 2024, over 600 female athletes in more than 400 competitions have lost more than 890 medals in 29 different sports. Even the United Nations, which I would argue is one of the most corrupt globalist institutions on the planet, concluded that, quote, the replacement of the female sports category with a mixed sex category has resulted in an increasing number of female athletes losing opportunities, including medals, when competing against males. First of all, I guess kudos to the UN. This is a surprise from them, but I'll give credit where credit is due. Kudos to the UN for actually calling this out. But remember that when you challenge the other side, and you've probably experienced this in your own life, when you challenge the other side and say, do you actually think it's fair that, you know, Leah Thomas, formerly Will Thomas, defeated Riley Gaines in swimming because Leah Thomas is so obviously biologically male? They oftentimes, the other side will say, this never happens. You're making up a wild hypothetical. Well, the United Nations says, no, this is not wildly hypothetical, that women have lost almost 900 medals in 29 different sports around the globe to biological men pretending to be women. Absolutely shocking. All right, up in Canada, there's a program, an assisted suicide program. They call it their MAID program, M-A-I-D program. And it's been in effect for a couple of years. We've been keeping an eye on it because, as you know, the United States oftentimes follows in the pseudo-socialist programs of European countries like Great Britain or even the Scandinavian countries, and oftentimes copies Canada's social programs as well. So what's happening in Canada could very well happen here in the United States. This number was floating around X today, and I could not believe it. I had to verify it for myself. But this program called MAID, it stands for Medical Assistance in Dying. It's just euthanasia. It's awful. It was passed in 2016, and since then, guess how many people have been killed by this program? 45,000 people have been killed by the assisted suicide program in Canada. In 2023, City Journal reported, and I quote, more than 13,000 people in Canada were euthanized in 2022. That's an annual rise of 31.2% since 2021. In 2022, 4.1% of all deaths in Canada were the result of euthanasia. MAID, the Medical Assistance in Dying program, could now be listed as the nation's 5th leading cause of death. 45,000 people. And this is not just for deadly diseases or end-of-life care. Not that that would be any justification. You can sign up for this for practically any reason. It is state-sanctioned suicide. 45,000 people. That is, if you'd like to conceptualize that number, more than the capacity of the 2 largest hockey stadiums in Canada. If you combined Bell Centre and Scotiabank Saddledome, all the people in both of those stadiums at the same time, 45,000 people being killed by the assisted suicide program is more than the capacity of those 2 stadiums combined. Meanwhile, over on TikTok, and you know I feel the same way about TikTok that you do, but did you know that Gen Z and millennials, the primary source of news is TikTok? Yeah, conservatives, I argue, should compete more on TikTok. Not because TikTok is good, it's bad. It shortens people's attention spans, and it's obviously used to infiltrate the minds of American youth by Chinese communists and other woke ideological forces. But all that to be said is, if woke ideological forces and the Chinese Communist Party are trying to warp young people's minds, then conservatives should at least compete over there. Otherwise, it's going to be blanket indoctrination, and we are not going to have made a dent in the minds of American youth. Well, President Trump is actually over on TikTok as well. And since President Trump went to McDonald's, his TikTok account has received nearly 300 million views. How crazy is that? The Trump team knows what's what because a new Pew poll recently found that here's the actual number. 39% of adults under 30 say they regularly get their news from TikTok. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. TikTok users are more likely to get news from TikTok than Facebook users are to get news from Facebook. That is also according to Pew. So it's both savvy and smart for the Trump campaign to be there, but how savvy and how smart was it for President Trump to go to McDonald's? I would argue it is close to the smartest move that his campaign has made this cycle, and that's a hard competition. All right, the final shocking number of the day. We talked on Monday about the different states, the different swing states across the United States that are claiming they're not going to tabulate votes by Election Day. They're claiming it's going to be delayed, that the results aren't going to be in until later that week or several days later. We're talking Arizona, we're talking Pennsylvania, we're talking Michigan, we're talking Georgia. But in a specific county in Arizona that is known for being rife with fraud, I'm talking about Maricopa County, they are now saying that it's going to take them between 10 and 13 days to tabulate votes. This is from a local NBC News affiliate. Quote, in Maricopa County, election officials are asking for patience as votes are tabulated, which could take 10 to 13 days because of the longer than typical ballots and the high interest in this year's election. This, according to Jennifer Luer, who is the deputy elections director. She said, we want to make sure that this is a secure process, but we also want to make sure that it's an accurate process. I'm sorry, I don't understand this. Are we talking about the United States of America? This isn't even a single state. This is a single county in a single state. I could go to Maricopa County myself, one person, and I could hand count ballots, the entirety of the county's ballots, in less time than 10 to 13 days. How on earth is a team of election officials unable to do that in less time than 2 weeks? Well, the answer to that, of course, is that they're planning to cheat. There's no other explanation, even incompetence, even my belief that nothing is more incompetent than the federal government, or I guess in this case, local government. My belief in the incompetence of government doesn't even hold water here, because this is so incompetent, it's simply not believable. The only explanation is that they are leaving themselves 13 days to cheat. I actually volunteer. I'd like to volunteer to Maricopa County. I will come down. I will buy my own plane ticket. I will pay for my own hotel stay. I will stay up day and night and hand count all of your ballots in less than 10 to 13 days. And then I will recount all of your ballots to make sure that I was accurate in my first count. Just me, one person, and it will take me significantly less time than 10 to 13 days. Actually, there's one more shocking number that you should know about before we go. The New York Times is now reporting that Bill Gates is using a nonprofit organization to donate $50 million to Kamala Harris. So, as you know, individuals aren't allowed to donate that much. So he's using this little shell nonprofit to give Kamala Harris $50 million. And I wonder why. Bill Gates has a lot to hide, doesn't he? He certainly doesn't want RFK Jr. to be part of the Trump administration to expose his collusion with the CDC and the FDA. He certainly doesn't want Trump to expose the Epstein list, which Trump has promised to do. And he definitely doesn't want Trump to be as based as Trump has been about fighting against, or actually J.D. Vance has been the real based one, fighting against the bogus climate agenda. And so Bill Gates is giving $50 million to Kamala Harris because he is a frightened little coward who knows that the days that the truth is hidden are numbered. And that is our shocking numbers segment for the day.